2 seconds before, 2 seconds after, I think. So, let's see. I think we're live. We're live, and we're joined this hour by Gingee, who's a musician, recording artist, just a fixture around Los Angeles, I'm sure greater areas, and she can tell us all about it. But before we get started in all the things that have come to build your name and fame with, let's talk about how it got started. Like, when did you first start playing music?
Oh man, well, I mean, ever since I was little, really, with just my dad playing like percussion in the home and stuff, and then just like in school, playing violin in elementary, if we want to go that far back. But I was playing guitar in high school, and my sister is drummer, and I was very influenced by her and her band that she had. So I was around like this band culture, which my family, I come from a family of musicians, basically, and so it's always been around. I didn't think I was going to become a musician or pursue music at first. I was actually into other things, but yeah, it just kept growing, and I just kept pursuing music. So, but when I started DJing, collecting records, like that was kind of a turning point for me. Because from that, I started wanting to do music production and learning like music production software like Ableton, and really like, just collecting those tools of like creating music. That was around college. But as you know, you're also a poet. I remember we did that performance at USC like a few years back together. You're like, I've done so many performances, I don't remember. But
No, actually, no, because we did a performance together. I'm not sure you remember, but it was in Highland Park. So it was like kind of like, it's kind of interesting. The ones. Do you remember that in Highland Park?
oh, which one? Oh yeah,
Owl?
yes. That
We were
that was,
on yeah.
pretty awesome for Arroyo Arts Collective.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I guess I have a non-linear path of like music because it's always been there in my life. But I pursued poetry for quite some time as a teen, and I did a lot of spoken word events, and I published my own zine, and just did a lot of writing, and I still continue to do a lot of writing. It's still there in my life very much, journaling, and also through lyrics, obviously. But it all kind of like coalesced together once I learned like the music production, how to record myself, and yeah.
Yeah. So when you first got your start doing kind of more like in spoken word and doing that, what we're really trying to do here is collect a lot of kind of oral histories about venues and spaces and labels and presses.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about a little bit about the venues you used to attend at the time.
For spoken word, well, the venue Beyond Baroque. Yeah, in Venice, it's a poetry venue, and I started going to some teen poetry workshops back then, hosted by Jeffrey McDaniel, and that was an awesome space. There's so much like history there in Venice with the poetry movement there, and yeah, I was involved in these teen poetry workshops, and before I knew it, I was being asked to perform there. It was pretty cool. It was like dead poets versus living poets versus teen poets. So it was like a round robin, which was pretty awesome. So they had like actors acting out, like pretending in character as dead poets, and then like living poets performing their own work like grown-ups, and then they had teens. So that was me. And then also, well, the Festival of Philippine Arts and Culture, FPAC, which ran for like good almost 30 years, but back in the day it was at Point Furman Park in San Pedro. Have you been there?
I've been to San Pedro, but I don't know if I've done.
Well, it's like this big grassy area right by the beach, and they used to throw that festival there every year for like quite some time. That's actually like the same place where I don't know if you've seen The Big Lebowski, but when they do throw the ashes and it blows right back at them, that's
all right, yeah.
But that was a really special space, particularly for like the Filipino community, just because it was a way for us to like gather every year, and like they had this area called the Generation Stage, which was basically kind of, I guess, the young people stage, where they would have like hip hop, they'd have a spoken word slam hosted by Baliktasan Collective, which I participate in that a lot, and just more of the contemporary stuff. Yeah, like the Filipino like festival, Filipino culture night. It's an interesting like blend of like traditional arts, contemporary arts, all mixed together. So I always like um, attended those and performed at those a lot. Other spoken word stuff. I actually got to do the California Plaza once, real quick, with Jeffrey McDaniel again. Um, where else did I did this spoken word open mic thing a lot at. Do you remember the Mountain Bar? I forgot what it used to be called. It used to be called the Mountain Bar in Silver Lake, and they had an open mic there. And I did a lot of like all ages stuff. Sabori Cultura open mic in Hollywood. Wow, like this is like really going back. I feel like spoken word. I don't know. You still perform a lot of poetry, right?
Yeah, mostly on college campuses though now.
College
Well,
campuses.
I'll still do like an open mic circuit now and again, but I'm not the man I used to be in terms of like, like hitting doing a mic every night. That's not where
Well,
I mean, even before, I mean, obviously now not, but I mean, even before this, I kind of shifted a little more out, but I remember all these places.
from your perspective, how has the scene shifted? I mean, it feels like it kind of peaked, like kind of maybe late '90s, early 2000s to me, but maybe that's just because of my involvement. But what's your perspective on it? Has it grown? Is it surviving? Like,
I think there's waves and there's peaks and there's certain places that just always are packed, like the Poetry Lounge, for instance. I mean, they don't there's no like peak or heyday or whatever. Or,
it's
there was
just
a
always
moment.
popping.
It's just always. I think that other places, yeah, they have their individual peaks and they have their individual kind of highlights. But the thing about like the lounge is that it changes. Like it changes with the times. Maybe it changes the times. I don't really. I couldn't exactly speak to that, but places like Beyond Baroque, it's I don't know if it's ever. It's not quite like the lounge where there's like, I mean, it depends on what it is. I mean, if given like a big event, they'll have people, but they're not anything like the lounge where there's a line out the door. But Beyond Baroque, like in the late '90s and the early 2000s, and this event, there's like 30 people that would show up to an event, and today there's 30 people that would show up to events. I mean, they've remained pretty consistent. So there's places, institutions that have maintained maintained their, you know,
Have you been to like Tuesday Night Cafe?
I haven't been to the cafe in years. I don't know where how it's doing or not, but I've been. I
It's
mean,
pretty
I've been.
awesome. I mean, they were still going, as far as I know, but yeah, they've always like had a really good like lively scene there, and they've kept that spark alive for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, like poetry, spoken word, that's kind of like will always be part of who I am as an artist, and I feel like it. I mean, my lyrics, because I do vocals now for my music, and I do a lot of rap and a little bit of singing, but I feel like that spoken word influence is definitely still there for
yeah,
me, because that's my foundation.
yeah. So you kind of start touring around, or hitting the scene as a spoken word artist, and then start getting more experimental with music and doing just different things with doing music. Um, but people already know you on the spoken word scene, so it's kind of almost like you had an inbuilt kind of vibe. So how did they respond when you started bringing your music to that same circuit?
Um, well, I mean, I guess they responded in a good way. I mean, I just noticed that people would listen to me more when I rapped. And I guess, the whole point of poetry is communication. And so if I'm noticing people, like the rhythms are like something that people are responding to. So that's just something that I kept going with in my music. And then I added like my gongs, my kulintang gongs, which is like a traditional Filipino instrument. Because I became kind of obsessed with like, how do I contribute to this music in a way that's like speaks to my culture and like kind of shapes like an Asian American sound.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but also while like incorporating all the different musical influences that I had growing up in LA, like because I really like I feel like I'm a genreless person. Like I like would go to any type of show. Like I in high school I was going to like the Troubadour and checking out indie bands, and then I would go to like a rave, and then I would go to like a underground hip hop thing, or like there'd be like a freestyle rap cipher happening like at a house party, and it's just like this pretty awesome mix that was happening like late 90s.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like that's all a part of me, musically and as an artist.
Yeah. So let's talk about the incorporation of well, let's talk about your music broadly. I want to talk about that in generally speaking, but also want to talk about your incorporation of traditional Filipino instruments. Like,
Mhm.
when did that come about, and like when did you really think that, you know
Mhm.
what?
Well, the gongs are if I don't know if you can really see them, but they're over here. I can't really see them.
There they are. Yeah.
They're called the kulintang, and they're a traditional Filipino instrument that are from the southern Philippines. And I was exposed to them like I guess in high school because I would go to PCN, which is a Filipino cultural night, and they have the way those are structured are they call them suites. There's the like um, the Muslim suite, which has the gongs. There's the like traditional Filipino like kind of Hispanic influence suite. So I was it was in my consciousness, but I really started paying more attention in college when I learned. I was just doing this whole soul searching thing, like because I was not seeing my Filipino culture in like the curriculum. So I was like creating my own courses, independent studies, and doing my own research to find like people who wrote about Filipino culture and experience. And then so I you know delved more into this world of like Southeast Asian music. And they had a Balinese gamelan class there. I went to the Claremont colleges. At Pomona College, they offered Balinese gamelan, which is well, gamelan is like gong. It's called a gong chime orchestra, and kulintang is also part of a gong chime tradition, which is found all throughout Southeast Asia, actually. Which I was just very fascinated with because as someone that was learning about colonization, how it affected our culture, how it affected our music, and much of Filipino music, as most people know it, is like kind of Spanish influence, like with the guitars and like kind of like the 3/4 timing, and um, just to learn about something that existed prior to colonization was like this wake up call to me that just really spoke to me. Because these are like gongs that are made out of like brass and bronze that are passed down through generations, and like the southern area of the Philippines like was less colonized than the other areas, so they were able to defend their culture a little bit more from outsiders, and they held on to those gongs. And so to me it was like a symbol of resistance, plus just being a really beautiful sounding instrument, and just sonically like it's just like um it doesn't fit into like a Western. People are like, what key are those in? I'm like, it doesn't even fit into like a Western tuning system at all. um they actually like they don't even fall. Many of them don't even fall on like the keys of a piano, or they fall in between, or um it's just so like different from like if you, like I always tell the story of I went to a music theory class, and like the first page of the book the textbook said that Western music is the most superior of music, therefore the most like worthy of study. And I just was like, ew, this is not for me. I have to like do more research on my own culture, and demand that they have like that they provide classes on this. And I did. So I took that Balinese gamelan class for 3 years, and I took dance too. And I also traveled to Bali and learned more about their culture, and just fascinated me just seeing the different like cultures that are not Filipino, but you can see kind of reflections of yourself within them, and then you realize that even your identity goes beyond this nationalist identity of like, your particular country that you come from, like, because all these like influences came from tides of migration and um, people bringing instruments and adapting them to their culture or their uses. So
Yeah.
yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does absolutely. It's really. I mean, it adds an element that is just so unique, and it's just because you're not doing that. You're adding it to the rest of the musical recipe that you create. As I don't know. I mean, I guess just as a Los Angelino, just somebody that lives in L.A. Like as a and as as your particular taste and what you were describing. But that experience is so common though for people who grew up in Los Angeles to one day be listening to like some rave, and the next day it's like a punk, and then it's like an indie band, and it's like underground hip hop night, then you're a rave, then you're and then another night you're maybe in like whatever it is your ethnic background might be, right? So for you listening to Chente or something like that, you might be listening to something else. So that kind of that LA. I don't know. I don't know if it's particular to LA, but seems very LA. It seems like an LA story. Um,
Mm,
so could we hear could we hear like a little sampling, a little track?
yeah. Here. Let's see. This song's called Ilog, or River. So yeah, that's just a little sampling.
Yeah. No, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. It's nothing to describe it. It's nothing to hear it. So that's really good. I don't want to like to go too far adrift, but the last show that we did together, I'm pretty sure it was last one, but you do so many, I do so many, so we don't know when. But I'm pretty sure it was last one. Was at the Owl thing, and it's a funny story because there was a guy there, and he was causing all kinds of problems with me and my girlfriend,
Hmm.
and everyone was great, but this one guy, he was causing all these problems, and I had to tell him like, look, stop talking to me. This is done. Leave me alone. And so he went and sat in his seat and was watching the show. And then you did the song, and then you did I think the lyrics were like decolonize your mind, or something like that, right? And I see this guy, he's sitting there dancing in his chair like this, all happy. He's been drinking, and he comes up to me after like wanting to fight me earlier, and then he puts his hand out and apologizes, right? And I'm like so shocked. So I shake his hand, and then after he left, about like an hour later, or 20 minutes later, maybe I turned to my girlfriend and said like, I think Gingee decolonized Bruce. Because he like yeah, that was good. That was good. That was
That's
that's
great.
a true story. That's a true story. I don't know if that can go in the bio or anything, but I saw it firsthand. Your music had an effect on him.
Well, you're welcome.
I appreciate it. I thought he was like getting ready to leave. He was like, all right, now I'm gonna settle this score. Instead,
No,
he
that's awesome. I
apologized.
mean, yeah, we encounter many situations, in life that, we do need decolonization. And decolonization, that whole concept came from this writer. Well, she's not the first person that like came up with that term or whatever, but Lenny Mendoza Strobel wrote a book specifically about Filipino Americans and decolonization, and how many of us, are going through this um, process of like really questioning our history, what we're taught in school, and like, applying it to our everyday lives of like, why do I choose this like aesthetic, or why do I choose, to identify with this culture, or just trying to be more conscious about learning about our indigenous culture, because it is very rich, but it's not something that people know a whole lot about. But there's like a group of people that are like learning about it more now, which I think is really beautiful, because it's like, even for me, someone that like has learned a ton about like the indigenous tribes and like the folk tales and stuff, there's still so much more to learn, and I'm so much more that is lost, I'm sure. But like, um it's just like crazy how we do have this really rich legacy that maybe some of us like might feel alone, and you don't know where your legacy is, but it's there, it's just kind of buried.
Yeah,
I don't know, I think maybe for Latinos, because you guys are like, we're literally are connected to your homeland here, and you just have more access to it. But I think for Filipinos and Asians, it's a little tougher because we're so far removed from it. It's so far away, and um, there's a little more digging that has to go on there. And plus, like, we're just such a small population. I feel that, you know, I guess our stories are not seen as marketable or not worthy of being published or being publicized or whatever. So it's more of a, like, it's harder to get published, and it's harder to get like, record deals or whatever, just because um, it's not popular. It's not cool, but
yeah,
I'm trying to make it cool, because like, just looking at like Asian traditional music, there's just so many instruments there, and so many sounds and so many subgenres, and it's like, it's very like you could study it for your whole life. Many people do, and I like have like so much respect for the traditional practitioners who like really are learning, the actual like how the tribes do it. I'm not that at all. Like, I'm totally like contemporary and like experimental, but I have like so much respect for the traditional practitioners and the people who like try to keep that alive. I guess I see myself more as like, I'm a translator. I'm trying to bring it to other people, because a lot of times I'm performing for non-Filipino people, and I'm just exposing them to like a little taste of our culture, and like, hey, there's more to be learned there. So
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. So I think Asians, like globally speaking, it's very interesting. It's an interesting concept because like Asians, like the everyone who lives in this place called Asia, um, constitutes some like 60% of the world population, right? So like more than half the world lives in what is called Asia, and yet in the United States of America, Asian Americans are like the kind of smallest group. I mean, Native Americans as well, but I mean they're like the smallest of these like subgroups, right? Asian Americans are like, um, so it seems like very niche, like like it's odd, like oh, like um, that's just it's a weird idea, like this idea of being like this minority.
mhm.
Actuality on the world scale, that's not the case at all.
Right.
Um, so that's just a really it's a weird America's a weird place.
Plus,
Um,
like, half or more of the things around us, the objects are made in Asia. So,
right,
I
right,
mean, off like cheap Asian labor, you could say that much of our country is built off the backs of like Asian labor. Um, so yeah, it's a weird thing, right? Like, why are we so marginalized? I think maybe it has to do with the fact that we're like, I guess, a newer wave of migration. Like, it seems like the longer you're here, the more you get entrenched into the culture. That's just one theory, but yeah, I mean, it's a struggle. Like, a lot of Asians, like Asian Americans, like, are very concerned with like representation. And every time like, there's another Asian character or another like Asian movie, like Crazy Rich Asians. Oh my God, they finally had a movie with an all Asian cast, and like, oh my gosh, like Fresh Off the Boat, they finally had like a Asian American TV show, like, so we're still like breaking boundaries to this day, and like it's beautiful to see, but we still have a long way to go. And like, I feel like now that this whole COVID thing has happened, I don't know, it feels to me like it's like, oh shit, it's like a step backwards now. Like, oh great, now everyone like freaking hates Asian people because they're blaming them for this, and like,
mhm.
um, it's Asian American History Month right now, or Asian American Heritage Month, and like I don't know, it's felt kind of oddly quiet in a way. Maybe people it doesn't feel appropriate to celebrate. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but we all of our culture, we all have so many like stories to tell, and we can only like grow more from learning each other's stories. So we just got to keep like including new voices and like being aware of like, is this the whole story? Like, can we include more? And
Yeah.
um, yeah, even as a Filipino, like even as like um, we have our Filipino art community and like it's beautiful, but sometimes I'm like, well, what about the other like Asian community? Like, why can't we include like what's up with the Cambodian community and what's up with like the Thai community and like I just want to bring everyone together. I mean, I realize that like communities need to like come up on their own and figure out their own identity and like have their own like things, but I like the idea of bringing people together.
Hmm.
um I have dreams of like creating a festival like that will bring everyone together. I
Yeah.
was working on that before this whole coronavirus thing, and hopefully it will still happen.
Yeah.
um but yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Like, I remember this issue with Bruno Mars came up a few years ago, as to whether or not he was like being, a cultural appropriator or something like that. And I don't really want to weigh in all that. But I remember having a conversation with one person. I said, well, okay, before Bruno Mars was making this kind of like funk kind of music, this funk pop music, before he was doing that, he was making more of this kind of like easy adult listening, soft rock kind of whatever, right? So he had to either make that or make this in order to be big. If this guy were to do what you're saying he should do, which is to make traditional like Filipino music, there is no way he would be able to sell platinum level. He could not have a successful career like the kind of career he has if he were to do that, because the American market, or not even the American market, the executives will not accept that. That just will not happen. That's not going to work. And they told me like, well, you never know till you try. And I thought that was like, you understand like how like, so you think that no one's trying? You think no one's tried this? You think nobody's been like? You think like I don't know what people think. They think that like that the expression of there's a number of groups, right? But the expression of this group's culture, right, is just going to be just the A&R people are just going to fall all over the place. The radio station's like, we've been waiting for somebody with some talent from this, and that's not there's a pressure to make things a certain way to get to that that mass
Yeah.
appeal. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, you could also say no matter what you do, someone's going to have an opinion on it. But like, I also think that like, well, evolution comes in waves, or it's a gradual process. Like, um, and like Bruno Mars is just like the next kind of um expression of that evolution, and hopefully, like in the future, we'll have like someone who's very proud Asian American, being accepted as an American artist, up there. It's starting to happen too. You can see it, especially like in the underground. There's some like artists in there, but yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like, um, there's no way he could make it if he was doing something really Asian, because unfortunately, I feel like Asian culture is not something that the majority of Americans really resonate with yet, or just it has to be done in the right way. And like we have like, will there be like an Asian like rap star? Like, there's it's not for lack of trying. There's like definitely like Asian rappers out there trying. Like, look at like Aquafina. She was a rap star before she became a big actor. And right now, like she's actually one of Aquafina's like she might be like the top Asian right now. um, but a ton of people have an issue with her and her like, her like music and her cultural appropriation and stuff. But it goes to show that maybe that's why she was selected by the like industry or something, like, oh, she could cross over because she has this certain type of appeal which could appeal to everyone. Um, but I mean, for me as an artist, that's not something that I'm really interested. I mean, I'm interested in being somewhat of a bridge, but like when it comes to like pop stardom, and so I could never like be a pop star, because I'm like all about being underground and doing whatever I want in the moment musically. But um, yeah, it's cool to see like who's actually emerged as like, in the industry.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just you don't necessarily you want to be a pop star, but the fact of the matter is that the fact that one cannot become a pop star doing that says something about
Mhm.
the culture. Do you know what I'm saying? It says something about our culture, right? The fact that somebody
Yeah.
could not become a pop star doing, say, let's traditional Bangladeshi music, right? Because people will be like, "That's weird." That says something about the culture we live in. It does not say something about Bangladeshi art, right? That does not say something. You know what I mean? Like, and so that's kind of what more the point I was driving is that if there's and that's not even to say the general public would say that's weird. It's to say that like there are people who because these things don't just happen. I mean, like there's not just a movie with a $40 million budget. And there's not just a record with a $50 million behind it to promote it. I mean, these
Like,
that doesn't.
okay, trust me, like if I had like, money was no object, man, the stuff I could pull off, the people like the musicians I would hire to like, join me and like I just feel like I have so many freaking ideas and like, I try to make them in my own way, my own do it yourself scrappy way, but I can, I feel like we have to still let ourselves dream, right? Dream big. Um, you know, growing up in festival culture, I feel like festival culture is a big part of Southern California culture, like raves and, just concerts and stuff. And like, damn, if I only had like the power, if we only had the power, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Bring everybody together. And we should have the damn power. We're the damn people. We're the artists of the city, right?
yeah.
Um,
I mean, we do it on a smaller scale, but we should be able to do it on a bigger scale. And I think,
it's just not commercially, viable, I guess, but
I mean,
grants. Even
but no,
grants
yeah,
are kind of because you have to like be a certain type of way. I don't know. They want
yeah,
what they want, but
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's kind
yeah.
of funny though because like I feel like there are certain things that like you or I could do in the city of Los Angeles and just get them done and have a certain amount of people attend, have a certain amount of whatever, have whatever. But if it doesn't fit into the story they want to tell, it won't get told. Like, I mean, example, Luis Rodriguez, he had Always Running at playing over at Casa, over at Josefina Lopez's place, and he had it there for like months, packed house every night, but there was a reticence to report on him over at the LA Times until Daniel Hernandez got a job there. Then all of a sudden, now Luis is there, was in the Times for his new book and for other stuff as well. But like before, it's almost like we just need people. That's what we need. That's what we need more. We need more people on the inside of the press and in those things to actually report our stories because there's they don't want to tell that they don't. I mean, look at La La Land, right? The movie La La Land. I mean, I
Mm.
can't like that's not L.A.
Mm.
That's not Los Angeles. I don't know what they're talking about. And most
Yeah.
visions of Los Angeles are not Los Angeles. They give it the demographics of a different city. I mean, that is just not Los Angeles. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't. If you go to San Gabriel Valley, you go to La Puente or something like that, you could see nothing but like Latinos and Asians, and that's it. And you don't see anybody else. But that to them, that's not America, right? That's just not America. And yet you're talking about like I don't know how people live in San Gabriel Valley but like 2 million or something like that. So like that's a lot of people, right? And that's not it, but it's not seen as America. You know what I mean? Like that combination or that kind of interaction of people is seen as it's weird or something like that. I don't know.
Well,
It's not like prime time. Yeah.
I'd say it's a conspiracy.
You can say it's a conspiracy. Yeah, you can say it's a conspiracy of underrepresentation. I just don't.
Because they don't want us to rise up, right? Because if we see our stories reflected and then we're validated, like, damn, I'm a real, like, I could be somebody, god damn it, like we need to like get organized. They don't want us to get organized.
Oh,
um but that's why I'm all about this do it yourself thing, and I always have been, like, really like DIY punk rock, just do it, like publish your own zine, make your own album, record your own stuff. Like, who needs to be accepted by anybody? Or maybe this is kind of out of necessity because I didn't feel like I really fit into any one scene or hey, oh, I see a comment. You have social media now, just do what you do. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing as much as I can. You know, I've been thinking a lot about like legacy lately and whatever, like if we were to die tomorrow, what would we leave behind for the
Yeah.
next generation? And like I'm trying to think more of that because social media is so ephemeral and so like I don't know, will our Instagram accounts be up forever? Like, will our Facebooks be up forever? Like, will YouTube be up forever? I mean, I guess ultimately nothing is permanent, but
Yeah.
um like I feel like I do get inspiration from like writers that are, past they've passed on and like musicians who have passed on and I would like to like, have an archive of my work like that. Like um we should be archiving our stories and our works and making sure that they are available for people,
Yeah.
to have access to, like even in a library or, whatever. Like it's funny, like, you know, libraries, when I go to the library, there's hardly any books about Filipino Americans or Filipinos, you know, because there's a lack of books being published about them. Because it's not marketable, I guess. Like I know a good friend Yana Gilbuena. She tried to do a Filipino cookbook. She can't get it published. Um, there's no market for it. No one's gonna buy it. So
But I mean, like, but how many people would buy it? Like for real, how many people would buy it?
I don't know. I mean,
If you have if it okay, so like there's this thing. I mean, like I'm not a capitalist at all, right? But like I don't I that's not my politics, right? But I understand the truth of a concept called supply and demand, right? And like there's like how many people would buy that? Because since there are none, how many people would buy that if it were marketed well? Like
mhm.
finally a Filipino cookbook. I mean, that would like fly off the shelves because there'd be a demand for it.
Yeah. I mean, or maybe people don't know what they want until you, make it available.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, even like Filipino cuisine has been like, oh, it's so trendy now. You see ube is like a purple yam thing. They have that in Trader Joe's now, but it doesn't say it's a Filipino thing. It just says Trader Joe's. But like really slowly we're starting to enter like this mainstream thing. But even that kind of scares me in a way because okay, what's your like ethnic background?
I'm
I don't
Mexican.
want you're Mexican.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to like I mean, I feel like Mexican culture is pretty much like being commercialized. Um, I
Without
mean, huh? Go ahead.
without Mexicans though.
Without Mexicans.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I just think of like Day of the Dead stuff
But,
and like, Dia de los Muertos and how many people have accused that of being like commercialized. And I'm almost thinking like, dang, maybe it's actually a blessing to be underground. Cause like I'd rather have my story be told by a small group of people that really care rather than having it be on like NBC and have it be mangled and like messed up or something. Is
yeah.
that sad?
I don't know. There's a pro and con to both. I mean, there's like there's I mean, I shouldn't say there's a pro and con. There's a con and con to both. I mean, like to be underrepresented and to be misrepresented, right? So even though you're talking about the lack of role representations within the Asian community, if you look at statistically in comparison to the numbers that exist, the Latino population is the most underrepresented statistically compared to how many there are versus how much representation in media. It's the most
Yeah.
underrepresented group in America. Just by the numbers, right? Not by sheer representation, but by the numbers. Like if we make up 17% of the country and we only appear about 4% of media, right? So it's like this, it's terrible. So we're both misrepresented and we're underrepresented. We're both underrepresented, so we're not there. And when we do show up, we show up as cholos, we show up as maids, we show up as this, we show up as that. And not that there's anything like really wrong with being a cholo or being a maid or anything like that. I mean, like that, you probably shouldn't be a cholo, like fucking with people and so that. But like but be cool if you're gonna do that. But anyways, but when they do represent it, it's always like this, like it's nothing wrong with being these things, but they're always like a cardboard cutout of it, right? So it's a very humble, yeah, kind of made. It's a very like "Ole, vato," like in a threat to white people, kind of like scary guy.
Like
So
just
like,
the like normal like kind of intelligent guy is like a rarity or whatever.
yeah, just normal, intelligent person who like.
I think of the show Hentification came to my mind right now, but you could
No, that's a
even
good
say,
one. But like,
huh?
that's a good one. But like, but that's rare. See, that's rare, and that's kind of like that's not usually what happens. And so I'm just gonna say with that is that it's just there's a misrepresentation and the underrepresentation. So to fight them both at the same time is really the struggle. How do you fight? How do you fight the fact that we're not there, but also not perpetuate like these stereo, not necessarily perpetuate, but not allow yourself to be used as a stereotype for to be laughed at by white audiences.
Yeah, it's tricky, right? But I mean, who's to even say that representation is the be all end all? Like many people brought that up. Like representation isn't even like that important. Or we're blowing that up as being like too big of a deal than it really is. Because so what? We're on like a big TV channel. Like so what? But I guess it matters for the rest of the country who don't get to see us, and then when they see us, it's like, oh, these people exist. We can acknowledge them now. I don't know.
Well,
Um,
it's one thing for you and me to say so what, right? Because like we're in our 30s, right? That's done. It's over, right? Our childhood is done. It's over, right? But think about the kids. Like
mm,
they need to grow up. They need to grow up and they see themselves on Sesame Street. Sesame Street is a good example. That's important. They can grow up, and Sesame Street is intentionally very diverse. So that's good. That's good that Sesame Street's been doing that for years and years and years. But it should be more than just Sesame Street. Like they should be able to see themselves, generally speaking, and they don't. That's not right.
yeah, for sure. Like I feel like I see myself more in like my fellow activists and artists that aren't popular. Like I see myself more in that. Like we like in the community more than like anything in mainstream media, really. And if I ever do see myself in mainstream media, I'm like very surprised by it. I just wanted to say thank you, Sylvia, for your comment. Enjoy doing your music and don't think about the money. The money will come after. I mean, yeah, it's not about the money at this point. For me, it's just like, yeah, I want to make my legacy, have it be archived somehow. And like, even if like, it's the next generation's turn to pick up the torch or whatever. But
Yeah. Well, so okay, so like you want to establish your legacy. What are you doing? I mean, like you asked me earlier about the question of legacy, and I mean, from my own answer to that is that like I think about that kind of stuff all the time, right? Like, and probably too much, like what will my statue be? But like for me, I mean, I wrote a book, and the book's done, and it's done. And no matter what happens now, I want to write more. I want to like build upon that. But no matter what, I wrote that book. It's around. I mean, the press could go under, other things could happen, but I wrote that book, get some articles about it, and I'm set. I'm good. I don't have to. I can think about something else. Right?
mm,
That's where my mind's at. But where about you? What about you? What are you doing to secure that legacy? What projects are you thinking about? Like this is a legacy project. This will be
yeah,
talked about.
well, I mean, my albums, my EPs, my music projects. I feel like that's the closest I'll come to that. Because like I came to the realization, like, yeah, doing shows is definitely important, a big part of being an artist, but they're so ephemeral. Like I've done so many shows, like, and they've been amazing. It's been an amazing like experience for the last like 10 years or whatever, doing shows. But at the same time, it's like, well, I need to archive stuff more. I need to like put it on YouTube, or I need to like, I don't know, just somehow be able to pass this stuff on so it doesn't just disappear. Because that's the thing about music, right? It's like it just goes in the air, it just floats in the air. Um, so yeah, just and now that we're in quarantine, like I've had to brainstorm so many different ways of like live streaming and new ways to bring the experience to people. And like recently, I made a music video completely in my apartment, just using green screen and whatever things we had here, whatever outfits I had here. Um, yeah, because I feel like we got to show people how can they do this. Like not that everyone's like meant to be an artist or whatever, but everyone can do something like you know with what they have. And I'm big on that because you can't just sit there and wait for someone to hand you an opportunity, obviously, because the media is not about to like hand us that opportunity. So we are forced to create our own solutions and like create our own platforms almost, and it just becomes exhausting after a while. It's like not only do I have to like I have to build my house, then I have to like decorate my house, and then it all gets destroyed all over again. Then I have to build it all over again. And it just gets exhausting,
Mhm.
you know. Whereas like other people who might be able to like fit in more of a format, they don't have to do all that. But it kind of hits different when you build the stage that you perform on almost.
Yeah.
Like I learned that from like going to Burning Man and stuff. Like you know, participation and just like there's no separation between staff, artist, attendee. Everyone is all helping to create this experience. So that's definitely like influenced me a lot. But yeah, I'm kind of into this like I'm just gonna be me, be unique, and do my thing, and use what I have, and like you know, not try to like latch onto any like really existing thing or get in where I fit in, you know, go where the love is. So,
Yeah, I like go with love, go walk towards the light. You know, I really that's a big reason why it's on Facebook and not Instagram Live because why I'm doing these on here instead of that because I don't like this idea of like just doing something that's gone the next day. I mean, like, and
mm-hmm.
people like that, but like, you know, like we should archive these things. We should, you know, and people get weird about that kind of stuff, but like, you know, I like we should view ourselves like a link in a chain like you know like you know I am in between the in the past and the future is the present and like this is now so like you know and this will become the past you know like and like so like you know it's important to like make sure that whatever it is that I'm reaching towards in the past makes it to the future like I think that you know
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah, it's like all connected because, you know, I feel like we it's our responsibility as artists to activate people to remind them like, hey, like you're important too, and you have a story too, and like your stuff deserves to be seen and like archived and passed down, and like you know, I feel like a lot of people are just kind of down on themselves, or I don't know if it's like a colonial mentality or just maybe a cultural thing where like this thing about humility or like not wanting to be seen is a
yeah
big issue. I feel. I don't know. I feel especially in Asian culture, like there's a lot of like, you know, I don't want to be on camera, or I'm very shy, or like, in a way that's beautiful because like, oh, you're not like trying to, you know, capitalize off like your whole life or whatever, like we've been taught to. But at the same time, we have to learn to play that game here to
yeah
be included, and we have to, you know, be visible and step into our power and like, you know, create all those art pieces and creations that are within us, and we have to like, you know, even for me as an artist who's like already been doing, you know, things, I still struggle with that. I still like, you know, question it all every so often just because you don't see like reflections of you, you know, you don't get that validation sometimes because like should I keep going, or you know, is this really worth it? I'm like kind of fighting against the tide here like um but then, you know, people encourage you and people like, you know, they're like, don't stop. So, okay, all right.
yeah so one of the last places I saw you actually would think was at before the owl place time before that was at Sunday Jump.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little about Sunday Jump and where it takes place and
Yeah.
what it is?
Sunday Jump, you know, it's pretty poppin', like open mic. And they have, it's not just poetry, but it's like also music and like different, just like even I've seen martial artists come there and do their thing, and like just whoever from the community like wants to come and showcase. And there's a lot of activists there for sure, very involved with the community. Yeah, like Eddie and Stephanie have been holding it down, um, and that's pretty awesome. I think they even did an online thing. So yeah, everyone's just been like pivoting and doing stuff, live streaming and learning the technology, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. So what aspects of you know to me like when people do things that are like they when they recreate the open mic online it gets kind of sad because like oh I miss everybody I want to go hug I want to go out get some eat afterwards all those things you can't do right now But what other aspects are really cool is like when you made, you talk about making a live video from your apartment. Those are things we could have done in the past, but you wouldn't think to until you're in quarantine. The fact that we're putting together open mics, drawing people from all over the country, so distance doesn't matter anymore. That's something we could have done back then, but we didn't because it's, people are busy. So what do you think are some of the things that are really worth hanging on to that we've kind of discovered in this time period as artists?
Um, yeah, I mean, the live streaming is really reaching like a global audience. Um, and like the technology is there, and I find it really beautiful that people are embracing that and learning things like OBS. And I've learned a ton this whole month, and just really harnessing this social media as the tool that it could be. Um, at the same time, it's kind of scary because it's like, oh, now our whole soul, like we're giving our entire soul to this machine. So it's kind of like with a grain of salt, taken with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And I definitely try and get my like offline hours and, um, 5G. No, I don't know. I don't know about all that. But yeah, I think it's beautiful. And like I was doing this online festival on Instagram where like I invited different people to do everything from like like a meditation or like a music performance or DJ set or like even just like a art studio walkthrough. Here, look at my art pieces. And like I'm really big on like inviting people into the fold that way. And like um I was noticing like, oh, this person, like maybe they just need like an excuse to like, put themselves out there and just kind of give them that little push. Um, so yeah, I did that. It was called Saturday Sesh, and I did it for the entire month of April. And I live streamed also a DJ set with live visuals. My partner Sick Delicious does live visuals for me. But I'm kind of like on a break from that right now because I felt like I needed a break to just step away from it. But I think I'm gonna do something well, June is my birthday month, and it's also like my birthday falls on the summer solstice this year, and I think I'm gonna do like some type of online event then, and maybe even have like some new tracks ready, or maybe possibly an EP. But I don't want to like promise too much. But I feel like now is the time to like delve into your art because I mean, if you have the privilege to have the time to do it, like you're just staying at home. I mean, as like as a person who, I make my living off live events, there's not going to be any of those anytime soon. So we're forced to make our own solutions and try new things and try this online thing. And like it could be fun for sure. It can also be really draining, but um yeah, I'm just like it's kind of in my head stirring up these different ideas of how are other ways that we can do this and how can we make this interactive and fun.
Yeah. Is there any way we could hear one little more sampling of your work, and then tell us where we can find it?
Absolutely. There's no like screen sharing on this, right?
Not on this one, no.
Okay. This is not Zoom. Okay. I'll play you a bit of my newest track, Going In, which I did the video for, and you can check out the video on my YouTube. It's like housey with rap.
Breakthrough, time to fly, do it how we want it, DIY, on a mission, don't need permission, see my vision, now it's time to go in, looking at a new frontier, this is our decade, make this your year, push through, know we can rock it, transform, know that you got this, calling all the bad ones on the block, we never gonna stop until we change the clock, we gonna walk the talk, we gonna shoot our shot, come on now, use what you got, yeah, we're going in, it's all within, we're going in. Now we're going in.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So where can we find all this stuff? How do we connect? How does the audience connect to everything?
I don't know how. I'm trying to go in the chat. I have the link here, but it's not letting me type it. Well, I'm here on this Be Live app, but
Yeah, you can type it on the Facebook
okay.
on the arrow.
But yeah, I produced that track. I recorded it at home. I recorded the vocals and wrote the whole thing, and yeah, just made the video and put it out. I'm not seeing it.
Oh, going in.
I'm not. Yeah, going in. I'm not seeing the live video. Like the link to the video.
I got it.
But yeah. So yeah, I mean,
Your house?
huh?
I'm watching it now. You recorded this at your house?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Well,
You don't give away all the secrets. That's very impressive.
no, well, I mean, it's a green screen, you know.
Okay.
And my partner, Sick Delicious, helped me out a lot. He does a lot of vision.
Oops. Put the wrong thing there. Put the Be Live app.
We just made our own green screen, and then I just like basically I saw visions in my head. I get my visions, and then I'm like, okay, let's make this happen. Like I see like my silhouette with drums and hands, and like, and my partner did a great job in like helping me translate that. So we'll hopefully be doing another one. It's a lot of work. Music video is a lot of work. Especially if you've never done one before. Like editing is just really tedious. But again, like legacy, I feel like music video is like that's something that's semi-permanent, I guess.
Yeah.
There's something that you'll always have, so it's worth doing it. Like once the music is done, like it's there forever, hopefully. So
yeah, it's on the road to permanency. Yeah. Well,
well, because that's the thing with music videos. Like, there's no way to really monetize that. Really, it's kind of just a promo tool. But yeah, like it's like something that represents you as an artist. So
yeah.
You ever make like a spoken word video or anything? Or?
Yeah. With Elefante, with the devil was the poem, but they made a video out of it, so it was really cool. I've been able to use it as a promo. I mean, I always just kind of I never really thought about it as like a piece of art. Although yeah, it definitely is, but it's more like them than me. I mean, I wrote it, but it was more like what makes it like visually interesting is more them than me. So I just use it as a promo tool. I just would send it to schools and stuff like that to get booked. I'd be like, look at this, and like look how great I am. But really, it was the video that made me look great, and it wasn't me. But it was. I mean, I guess it was me, but it was a combination. But I was taking like, yes, all me, just greatness. Pay me, like so. But yeah, so it's an interesting experience. But we got the link there below. So what are some other links that people can follow your music? They can purchase your albums. They can follow you.
Gingee.bandcamp.com is where you can purchase my music. Or I'm on also iTunes and Spotify and like all those music sites. I should be there if you look it up. I can't put the link in. I wish I could put the link in, but gingee.bandcamp.com, and you can follow me on Instagram at Gingee World, GingeeWorld. So
Okay, I'm trying to put the Bandcamp one. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not as clear on how that works as YouTube. That was easy for me, but I think it worked. I think I got you on there.
Oh yeah, I see it. You ever do like recordings?
Not on Bandcamp. Not at that level.
Because I've seen you perform live a few times, and like you have so much fire in your performance. I feel like you should just do more videos.
All right. Well, I'll take that to heart.
I'm just saying.
Keep that in mind. All right. Well, I really appreciate you spending this hour with us, Gingee. We got the links below. People can know where to connect to your work, and I'm sure I'll be seeing more of you online. And hopefully in the future we'll be back at the venues.
Most Def, thank you for taking the time to speak with me, and it feels good to talk about my art and my story. So I appreciate it. Cool. And like you keep doing your thing and doing your art. And yeah, that's awesome that you're doing these interviews. So thanks for having me be a part of it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.